So, what our project is here, since we've designed already our character, hopefully you guys went through that. Yeah, we are going to do some drawing today. So, paper and pencil and that kind of stuff. Um, being that when we start off, we drew a picture of a person, a house, and a tree. Those three things need to be in your comic cover. Now, the person's going to be easy because it's going to probably be your superhero or action figure that you created. The house can be in 1 point or 2 point. I'm going to have you do the name in 1 point. The house doesn't have to be a huge part of it. It could be something in the background, or it could be you do a point perspective room and we accept that as the house. And the tree could be anywhere from a tree to a plant to, baby Groot. Um, or maybe somebody's eating a carrot. Something that is organic in nature. All right. With that said, our subject matter, person, house, and tree, somewhere within your comic cover. What does a comic cover have to have? First of all, if we look at these two, what do they have in common? What do they both have? A title and a main character. All right, excellent. So, yeah, you're going to have a title. In this case, both these comics don't have the title of the actual character. And that may be something you want to go with if you never figured out a name for your character. All right, Superman first appeared in Action Comics #1. Spider-Man first appeared in Amazing Fantasy #15. So, title and drawing of your character are going to be important for this comic cover. What tells you the issue? How do you know if you've got the first part of the story or the second part? The number. All right. Very simple so far. Character, title, number. And then we're going to get to something a little bit different. All right. This is the comic code. Why do comic books have a comic code? Well, look at the picture on the right. This was by EC Comics back in the 50s. And in the 50s, people believed that if children read disturbing stories, they would want to act them out. That comic books were becoming a plague upon our nation, and that they would subvert all children and make them criminals. No, I'm serious. That's really what happened. Later on, they would say the same thing about rock and roll music. They would say the same thing about video games. Um, we say the same thing about cell phones now. I'm not too sure it's making them criminals, but there could be an argument it's making them all zombies. All right. Because of this, there were all these huge Senate hearings. I mean, it seems crazy today, but like the government got together to look into the effects of comic books and what effect they were having on children. And they decided that comic books needed to be monitored, especially because when they showed this picture in court, they asked the guy that owned EC Comics if he thought this was appropriate for children. And he kind of broke down on the stand and sobbed no. So he didn't have any backbone for the freedom of speech issue in here whatsoever. Um, so that they ended up creating this thing called the Comic Code. Now, the Comic Code had all kinds of restrictions, but the three most important are the three that um, would have to be followed no matter what was A, you cannot have two people touch each other in any kind of sexual manner. So even like, if there was a bed on the room, nobody could be laying on it, sitting on it. Yeah, it got very strict as far as that. Occasionally you could have them kiss, but that's about as far as it got. There could be no red blood. And you see they were already kind of leaning toward that in this crime cover. And the bad guy would always have to be punished. All right. Now, you also couldn't use the word horror. You couldn't show people using drugs. There were a bunch of other stipulations, but the main three: no sex, no blood. Bad guy always had to be punished. And whether that was go to jail or die by some sort of misadventure, as you see in every Disney movie, right? The bad guy never gets killed by the good guy. Uh, Tarzan has to chase him into vines, and the man manages to hang himself. Really? I love that movie, but even I'm going, it didn't make any sense. So everybody had to be punished, right? So I'm going to have you try to make this little comic code sign somewhere on that comic cover. Because unfortunately, even though the majority of comics nowadays operate without the comic code, because most have to go to a comic store to buy them, our comic code still are we still have to adhere to the comic code. So no drugs, no sex. Assumably the bad guy will get punished and no red blood. All right. As we take a look here, having a background is important. Having a background that establishes where the story is taking place is very important because that's one of the things that lures people into the story. All right. So far, title, character, comic code, issue number, and you need a logo that defines your comic company. So if you want your comic company to be Benjamin Sanchez Comics, boom, go for it. If you want to put like a logo there, like maybe your favorite animal's a Wolverine, you could draw a Wolverine face. You could even write B Sanchez Comics on there. All right. That usually goes either up above. Sometimes it's in a circle, like we see in every one of these. Um, but you are going to create a logo. And here, Dark Horse's logo says Dark Horse Comics. It's got a horse. Image Comics has a giant eye. Hard to believe they made the millions of dollars that they did. Top Cow has a earth with udders on it. I must admit, I do find that amusing. All right. So you're going to need a logo, a number, a price. I don't care what you price it at. The title, your character, a point perspective building, and some sort of tree. Okay, a couple other quick ones before we get started here. Um, that picture of Daredevil is crazy. The body cannot bend like that and still function as a body. All right. But it does show space. And that would be a great idea for your comic cover. Daredevil's up front. In fact, he's so big. If you look here, he's breaking the panel. Hey, that's pretty cool, right? Because that gets him out of drawing on any other part of the picture except for this 75% the image is on. This guy's farther in the back. He's smaller. Your horizon line is tilted. Why is it tilted in both these? To show that there is action going on. So yeah, you can tilt your comic book cover a little bit. Boom, you have some action going on. All right. Wolverine here in the spotlight. Big poster behind him saying that everybody who's been apprehended or slain. This is from Days of Future Past. Probably one of the most iconic comic book covers in the X-Men line. That one has been reproduced and parodied 1,000 times. All right. And the reason I'm showing you Rusty, our big guy, and Rusty the Boy Robot is because you see a beautiful 2-point perspective there on the city street. Jeff Darrow was very, very much into drawing point perspectives and drawing little dogs on the sidewalk, as you can see in the lower left. Almost every picture he could muster a dog in, he would put it in. All right. So everything that we've talked about, Dark Horse Presents, there's the logo, there's the issue number, there's the price. You see big guy. Now I don't know why it's small in this version. Maybe because they didn't want to block the monster, but that's going to a vanishing point. You have your main character. You have some background. The only thing this is missing is a tree. I would put a potted plant here to count as my tree. You can be a little loose with that stuff. All right, cool. Okay, so normally I would have this big discussion about how to frame a comic book page and do all this stuff. But I do want you to kind of get through your pre sketch over Christmas break or over the holiday break. So, with that in mind, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a line at the top of my paper. Boom, just like that. All right. I'm going to use another line here. Boom. This is going to be where I write my comic book company's name. So I'm going to do it in block letters. In my case, it will be the name of my book series. So I will just put in a lifetime in time. Now, normally I just would have made boxes to do this, but I know from years of doing lifetime in time that there are the letter I in there, which takes up a whole lot less space. So normally, and I'll just show you here, if I would have kept these all the same box width, my eye would have to be real fat, like that one we just saw for Image Comic. And that throws off my flow a little bit. So I'm going to end up doing my letters as I go. I might want to judge my space so I don't get out of control, right? Don't run out of room. I know I got an eye there, but this is the easier way to do it. Put a little long on that E time. And then maybe I just write the word comics in here. COMICS. Oh. And this word looks a little crushed because, well, I didn't do what I should have. All right. So I got my comics there. What do I do for my logo for a lifetime in time? Very common back in the Marvel comics of the 70s because they were lazy. You just draw the face of your character. If it was the Hulk, it had the Hulk face. All right. Now, if you want to keep everything together in this package, you put another rectangle under it. This is super common. Here's where your comic code of America. And next to your comic code, you can put the issue number. I'm going to put 42 for no particular reason other than I like the number 42. And there we go. So I'm going to give you guys like a minute or two to catch up on that. Throw yourself down a guideline. If you want to start boxing out your letters, go for it. And I'll set my timer on the clock. Here's where it gets a little tricky. Because I'm not 100% sure what type of point perspective you want for your title. All right. We did one that was angled, so we put our top guideline for our letters. I think when we did ours, we did it straight, right? So it'd be horizontal. And then we made our second guideline curved like that. All right. So you could put letters within that space. You could also, as an option, do both sides coming down and curve up in the middle. And then you could set your letters within those kind of spaces. So you could do that. Like, let's say I had a very unimaginative title and I called it Comic Book. Oh. Okay. All right. Now, I jammed the word book in there. And you're probably looking at it and going, well, that's going to be a really hard point perspective, isn't it? No, because it's going to run into almost every other thing that we do. So let's say I curve these out a little, some of them, just to make it bubble. I erased the lines I didn't like. All right. And then I start connecting up. Now, most of the time, since my letters are that tight, they are just going to run into each other. But a few of them, like the bottom of that K, they'll make it all the way there. And just like on the 2 point, I don't want to go through any of my forms. Boom. Now my upper C runs into my vanishing point. So I'm good. This won't connect. That won't connect. The bottom of my eye, or the top of my eye, will run into the main part of the eye. All right. This part over here will run into the M. So I'm done there. Top of my G is going to run into the I. So I'm not really having to go that far because they are that close together. Like you might get some lines going from the O's. You may not, the K might be the most prevalent of all the letters because they're stacked on top of each other. A different word there, you could, definitely, I just threw comics in there because it's generic. But then all I have to do to parallel these is go like this. All right. And then my M comes up. My L is, or my I is here. My K like so. The other part of my K like that. I erase these guidelines. I double check everything. Make sure it looks cool and tight. And once that's okay, I can actually even get rid of the vanishing point because I got no more to do with that, right? So, comic book, not exciting. But like I said, if you don't know the name of your character, because Spider-Man got released in Amazing Fantasy number 15, you can just give your book a title like Strange Stories or From the Writings of Baron von Sandwich. I don't care. It's up to you. Going back to this one, I could do the same thing here. K-E-E-P-E-P-E-P. yarn over. See, and because I'm using serious block letters here, I'm really not going to have much to connect up to. And if I do have something to connect up to, it's not going to have to go too far. All right. So basically, let's say you have a bigger title than you would really want to have to do as a point perspective. So I would write The Keeper, and maybe down here in a little oval, I would scratch out Of Time. So maybe I want my comic called The Keeper of Time, but I only want to take and make three-dimensional the word keeper, because A, it's easier, and B, I'm lazy. So with that in mind, I can even move my vanishing point off to the edge like this, and I can connect up. I know I don't want to go all the way to that vanishing point. And because I got this huge letter in here, or this huge circle, I can go that route. Now, parallels should be easy. I move over, I slide over. There's the bottom of that K, but I need to get the bottom of that E too. So there's my K. My K is on the same trajectory as my E. All right, this E, same thing. Bottom of that P. Then, what else do I have? I got the inside of the P. I would come back and hit anything else that would run to the vanishing point. The middle of that K stopped. The top of this K stopped. All right. This E stopped. You will probably spend the majority of your time, depending on what you call yours, just kind of mess around with this one point. On the upside is, if you do this nicely on your pre-sketch, when you go to do your finish one, you put a piece of paper over the top and you just trace it without any pencil lines, without any mistakes, and it looks just absolutely awesome. And you won't have to see faint ghost lines as you do it. All right, so far, just to recap, got the name of the comic company, Lifetime and Time Comics. I got the comic code. I got the logo. I got the number. All right, I'm going to put a price down here. $1. All right, why $1? You know, you can sell 1,000,000 at $1, or you can sell one at $50. I'd rather sell 1,000,000 at $1 each. All right, so what else do I have to put in here? Well, I could have a character in action. I could have a character fighting. I could have a character standing proudly. I could have a number of characters. I could have a battle. Always got time for the hero pose. Do I have to have the entire character? Well, no, some of the character could go off paper. Boom, 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 boom. There's my teardrop. There's my fist, my potato, and my chicken legs. Then all I have to do is to start drawing my details on top of it. Got to remember to make everything curved. Oh, messed up my own mask. The more curves you have to your clothing, to your character, the more three-dimensional that character is going to look. All right. Now, part of the problem might be, how am I going to work a tree into this? Here. He's holding a magical staff that has some leaves. Why is he holding a magical staff with leaves? I got no idea. I'm just drawing a picture. I'm not the writer on this one today. So hopefully yours makes sense to you. There's my fingers wrapped around the staff. Maybe there's more branches. Maybe there's a spider hanging from the branch. I don't know. That's up to you. And then all I have to do is figure out my point perspective. I'm doing it loose, but you can see that this should work out if everything goes to the right vanishing points. All right. So I could put a city behind them, or I could have put them in a 2-point room, or I could do anything. I mean, really, it's your comic. All you need to have: title, your comic company, your logo, comic code. You might want to write this down. Number, price, and then technically superhero instead of a person, house and tree. So here, I will actually put that in the chat room. I'm going to give you guys some time to work on this, even though we don't have much time left. That way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So your superhero will be the person. The building will be your house. So that's going to be what represents, whether it's inside or outside. The tree, punt on that one. Do the best you can. Maybe you're going to be fighting a bunch of tree monsters, like a bunch of Groots. Who knows? That would be awesome. And then as far as the comic construction, you need a title and 1-point perspective, your company name, your logo, issue number, comic code, and price. And I know it seems like a lot of things, but if you look in the upper left, the logo, the price, the comic code, and the issue number, it's take you about 30 seconds. It's really not all that hard. And like I said, this is a pre-sketch. It doesn't have to be beautiful, just to the best of your ability. When we get back from Christmas break, or I'm sorry, holiday break, for anybody who celebrates something else, then we're going to take and have you do it for reals and make it look awesome. So I will grade you for the pre-sketch, because if the pre-sketch has all this stuff, I know you should be able to get a 4 out of 4 on the final, much more weightier, pointed assignment. Cool. Any questions, anybody? Have yourself a wonderful holiday. Stay out of trouble. If you can't stay out of trouble, don't get caught. Be good to people out there. Don't get sick.